It's that magical time of the year again when hearts are warmer, lights are brighter, and every moment feels like a memory in the making. Welcome to Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television from our corporate headquarters in Lagos State, Nigeria. I am Henry Igwibike, and we'll be starting today with our newspapers as usual, and from there would be our main conversation also for today. Do well to be part of what we do. Have a say in what we say. You can find us, reach us when you visit us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. Joining us to do justice to everything we have from our newspapers and crisscrossing to our main conversation for today is Barrister Van Sufeli, a barrister, law public affairs analyst who joins us from Toronto in Canada. Good morning to you, Barrister, and Merry Christmas to you.
Good morning to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much for your time. I'd love to believe the snows are more than enough right now in Canada.
Very, very thick outside there. It's very cold.
Well, we are lucky in this part of the world. It's warmer. Every day for us is summer. And we're so very grateful, very grateful for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will urge you to grab your cocoa right now, gather your loved ones, and let the spirit of the season begin right here, right now, with our newspapers. And we'll start with The Guardian for today. We have the big story. Power crisis lingers into Christmas as output averages 3,000 megawatts. We have on the top strip also that Atiku Abubakar accuses Tinubu of defying Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy. We equally have Tinubu sets up APC committee to heal rift, mobilizes party ahead of 2027. And that's what our president is more about rather than governance, unfortunately. But we have other matters that PDP leaders move to reconcile factions, set up caretaker committee. Growing opposition threatens January implementation of the tax law, and Christmas Eve a tragedy, this time in Maiduguri. Many feared dead as IED explodes in Borno Mosque. ASU, federal government reached truce as union accept 40% pay increase. I do not know what that would equal to for a professor who is still going about with the 400,000, 40% increase. How much of difference would that do, especially at a time like this? But Barrister, let's start with the power crisis in Nigeria. Right now, we are doing 3,000 megawatts of generation in a country of 200 million people in 2025, with a president that said we hope to grow a $1 trillion economy. Where is the miracle in growing a $1 trillion economy with 3,000 megawatts of power supply in 2025, Barrister?
The president is a joker, a big-time joker. You are not going to grow any economy to any trillion economy when you don't have power supply. Is evident, is given, okay? Nothing like that will happen because this country has toiled with electricity for a very long time. The prospect it holds, the capacity, the economic, socio-economic capacity that it renders, in terms of the economic well-being of the citizen, is one that cannot be denied. But this government have failed to. This government, previous governments, successive governments have found it very difficult to put power supply in place. This government even came to worsen it because now there's a balkanization. Power is now rationed based on class. Okay? And when you ration power based on class, you are creating more problem than you can ever solve. Because what you are saying is that you have given up on the process of having constant electricity for everyone. You have given up on that. So what you're not doing now is to give it to those who can afford it, or give it to those who can pay for it. By that token, you are not ready to actually address the problem. That's what it means. Okay, because energy is supposed to be human rights. Government is supposed to provide it no matter what. the situation is. You know, assuming we're not conceding that we have the kind of weather that we have here in Nigeria, people subsist. How are you, and then you now turn into by A, by B, and the rest of that. That means those who are not covered by the privilege ban will be frozen. That's exactly what it means. They'll be frozen wherever they are. So we're just fortunate that the weather is very okay. And then we are handling the power issue of power as if it's secondary. Every time we talk about the economic issue, look at the drums that we've been beating for the past 2 years on the tax law. Why don't we use that energy, that the energy that was put into this tax law, to come up with a legislation that will guarantee constant power supply? Why? Which is more important? Which comes first? You see the lack of priority. Which one comes first? Taxation. It tells you where the president's focus, where his focus and where his loyalty lies. His loyalty lies in the pecuniary gain of the government rather than the efficiency in power supply for the general public of the country that will invariably boost the economic fortune of Nigeria. So it's an unfortunate situation because government is not prioritizing rightly. Government is not prioritizing rightly. If government were to be prioritizing rightly, by now we should be able to address this major teething issue, because power supply is teething as far as I'm concerned. It's something that ought to have been addressed a long time ago, but we keep wasting money on different, 200 million people, we're doing 3,000 megawatts. That 3,000 megawatts is not even complete. It's not even a complete, because that population is supposed to handle far more than that. But it's unfortunate, really.
At this point, one would wonder where the Nigerian police force and their stations are at right now, because they used to be in band E because they can't pay bills. So now that we're doing 3,000 megawatts, who knows which of the bands they would belong to? And these are institutions that are providing sensitive reports.
That is why when you find yourself in there by any commission of an offense, before you come out from there, they would have make you dry, because anybody that breaks the law that find himself there, yourself, your relative, or whosoever, they will ask you to go and buy fuel for the generator. They will tell you they don't have paper, they don't have anything. You will pay for everything. You understand? Before you come out from there, you come out impoverished. So the system is not the right kind of system. No economic growth this way. This is punishment to the people. You see, putting Nigerians in darkness, even in Christmas, is banditry. The federal government should be held responsible for banditry. It's terror. It's an act of terror. It's terrorism. It's terrorism, yes, because the whole year, 12 months, the only time where the people have to celebrate is when they are not dumped in darkness. It's not a good thing at all. Not a good thing.
Let's take a look at other matters. Atiku Abubakar accuses Tinubu of defying Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy. What's your take on this? I understand Atiku Abubakar might not be, someone you would love to give reference to when it comes to leadership. But at this point, let's forget about the messenger and concentrate on the message at this point. What do you think is still holding the local government from not getting directly from the CBN what is due them, so democracy can, or the dividends of democracy can start from the grassroots, which is the local government areas?
The federal government went to court. The president went to court through the Attorney General. Got to court, got judgment in his favor. The federal government itself is responsible for implementation, execution of laws. That's the responsibility of the federal government. But the same federal government is still paying those state resources to the state account, to the joint account. Okay, so when you get such judgment, what should have followed this to for there to be a corresponsive amendment of the constitution to create account for the local government, and and then you pay directly to them. So it's a violation. Article is right to say that Tinubu violates the Supreme Court because you got judgment in your favor. You did not cross appeal, okay? Because the Supreme Court, you cannot even appeal to anywhere, by the way, okay? The judgment was in your favor. The same you that is supposed to implement the judgment that is in your favor have refused to implement it. So I don't know who else again they are going to run to. Is it the governors now? Is it the governors now that are supposed to the defendant who lost the case? Is it the one that will go and make efforts to see that the case is implemented? Is it not the claimant? Okay, the judgment creditor. The federal government, the judgment creditor. It's the judgment creditor that will make effort to ensure enforcement, and not the judgment debtor. So that's why the governors also kept quiet, because they are using the little time, that the federal government have refused to implement the law to also enjoy their illegality, pending when the federal government wakes up from its slumber. So it's a violation of the law, truly. The article is right.
But, Barrister, there's this part of the law, I do not know exactly where that is, that says the Constitution, that is, that there should be a joint account between the state and the local government.
162, Section 162 of the 1999 Constitution.
Exactly. So I learned that the governors are actually using that section to defend the fact that grants from the local government should come to them first before it gets to the LGAs. So how does the Supreme Court and our Constitution come in simpatico to ensure that this works?
Now the Supreme Court have given judgment that the money should be given directly to them. Okay. But the state governors are still the custodian of that money. You understand? Because of Section 162 of the 1999 Constitution. That money is actually paid to the state government joint account with the local government. But what I'm saying is that having gotten judgment in your favor, you are the executive. You commenced a constitutional amendment proceedings. Even the current constitutional amendment process, the separation of the two accounts is not even part of the amendment. So you believe that once the Supreme Court just say, give them their money, the governors will not carry the money and give the local government just like that. They were waiting for you to come and implement the judgment. You see, when the judgment has been given, the judgment debtor will tell you that it's not his business to go help the judgment creditor to enforce his judgment. It's the judgment creditor that will make effort. Okay? In this case, the federal government is the judgment creditor. It is them that will make effort to ensure that implementation works. And one of the ways to ensure implementation is to disable that joint account. To disable the joint account because the money is with the federal government. They are the one disbursing it. But they are still disbursing it alongside that of the state. So they're expecting the governors to just comply. Judgment debtor, they hardly comply. If it's a money judgment, for example, you get a judgment against me, the federal government says I should pay you. You think once I get home, I'll just carry money and give you? I'll tell them I don't have money. The next thing, the judgment creditor will now go to court to file for what we call either a writ of 5A or is going to file for garnishing proceedings, through which the court can garnish my account and take the money forcefully. So no judgment, it's not in all cases that judgment debtor will just come up and comply with judgment that way. The judgment creditor has to do something, has to make effort to ensure that that happens.
Today we have the big story: 5 killed, 35 injured in Borno mosque bombing. Actually, it's Christmas Eve, a tragedy. It was captioned with. Barrister, let's talk a bit about this, and this is coming just a few days after the federal government christened the bandits and the criminals and the insurgents as terrorists. I love to believe the reason they did that was to put some fear into them, but these people seem not to be perturbed by this thing from the federal government. And right now we have 5 people killed, 35 injured in a mosque in Borno.
They are attacking more of mosques these days just because the United States says the findings came out positive that there's actually an attack on Christians, that there's a genocide on Christians. So these days, they are doing more of attacking the mosques just to change the narrative. Whichever way you call it, is terror. They are killing people. Okay? Like before now, usually, when it's Christmas like this, in Jos, then for the past 5 years, every Christmas, you will hear one very, very bloody attack like that, either in a church or gathering of people and the rest of that. So this one now is just I don't know what they are trying, I don't know what the intent is in the case under reference, But I have always said that whether it's Christian, Muslim, traditionalist, and whatsoever, it is not acceptable to take life indiscriminately without repercussion. It's not acceptable. So whether it's a mosque or a church or whatsoever, it is wrong. Because these people that are being killed are defenseless people, okay? People who the government of their country is supposed to, take care of, protect them under the relevant laws. But then you have them living at the mercy of insurgents who come and attack indiscriminately. And when you talk, they will say it's guerrilla war, that you can't determine. I don't understand. I don't understand. But if you look at what the United States government did recently too, you will notice that the Americans are coming close on the issue. You remember that a few days ago, America recalled the consular general, was recalled. That same day that it was recalled, around past 11 p.m. in the night, the American surveillance jet, from Ghana took off and went through the entire airspace, Nigerian airspace. Okay, took a good surveillance of the Nigerian airspace. The same day, the recall happened by 4. Okay, the recall happened by 4, and by 11 p.m., the surveillance jet took off and landed back in Ghana. Okay, so you can see that there is a tendency that we're closing up on the issue. The American government may have taken a decision on the issue because the report had been submitted to the President of America since the delegates that were sent got back.
Don't you think hovering around our airspace is an attack on sovereignty at this point? That would not be taken lightly by other nations, isn't it?
There's authorization.
From who? From the president?
It was not reckless. We have commercial aircraft going in and out, right? It's when you don't have authorization, okay, that the issue of sovereignty sets in. In the case under reference, okay, there was authorization both in Ghana and in Nigeria. The Nigerian army and the U.S. government have been working closely these days. I don't know how much of that news you have available to you. They've been working closely these days, and they have all kinds of authorization on the issue. So it's not for anything. It's part of the job. Okay, it's part of the assistance that the U.S. government is supposed to render in the case under reference. So there's nothing out of order.
Finally, look at the issue of Malami at this point. 41 properties worth 212.8 billion naira traced to Malami EFCC. Do you think the same dragging that was meted out on Mefele would be done to Malami at this point, or do you think someone will be treated more like a sacred calf at this point?
It appears that Malami will have more houses than Mefele. From what we are seeing, and more assets from what we are seeing. Just an Attorney General of the Federation who just was Attorney General for 8 years under Buhari that was not aware of anything. You see that under Buhari, the kind of corruption that went down, okay? They are supposed to be treated equally, except they are bringing bias into it, okay? Suspects are supposed to be treated according to law. Okay? And the EFCC is supposed to handle this case from the standpoint of law and just law. Okay? So there should be no bias whatsoever. I know that there are cases where some persons have preferential treatment. Like if you look at the case of the Accountant General of the Federation, who did a plea bargain, and his trial was not, and it was truncated along the line, and he was given soft landing, even though part of the matter is still ongoing. But you could see that one has to do with plea bargaining. You're surrendering stolen property, assets, and and funds, ill-gotten wealth. So Malami's own is just starting. I think the court even refused him bail. Okay, he's still in detention as we speak. Yes, because the last time the bail wasn't granted. It's either the bail wasn't granted or was granted, he has not perfected. Either one is in custody.
The bail was actually granted, but I do not know if he's out. But at the last I saw, he was granted bail.
Yeah, but so whether it's out or not, I can't really tell about that now.
Wrap it for this particular segment, just to let you know that Barrister will still be here to take us on our main conversation. That is when we return. Tax laws, chaos in Nigeria, lawyers blow up over Oyedele's claim. That in a bit is still Enterprise Morning Christmas edition. I'll be right back. Please don't go anywhere. Thank you so very much for being back. And if you just joined us, this is still Enterprise Morning, our Christmas edition for today. And let's head straight to our main conversation for today. Chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform, Taiwo Oyedele, has insisted that President Bola Tinubu lacks the constitutional power to suspend the implementation of the newly passed tax laws already gazetted. Speaking in an interview, Oyedele argued that calls for suspension are misguided, stressing that neither the president nor the executive arm can halt laws that have taken effect. He noted that 2 of the 4 tax laws commenced immediately, repealing the Federal Inland Revenue Service FIRS Act and replacing it with the Nigeria Revenue Service NIRS. According to him, suspending the laws would create chaos, including questions over the legality of revenue already collected and the continued existence of the Revenue Authority. However, several senior lawyers, including Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Sans, strongly disagreed. They argued that enforcing the laws from January 1, 2026, despite alleged post-passage alterations, would violate the rule of law. The lawyers maintained that if the gazetted versions differ from what the National Assembly passed, the law becomes unconstitutional, void, and unforeseeable. Sons like Mohammed Abeni and J.K. Gadzama described Oyedele's stance as reckless, warning that discrepancies between past and gazetted versions create a serious constitutional crisis. They urged immediate suspension of enforcement, possible legislative correction, or judicial intervention to restore legal certainty and public confidence. Let's get talking. I still have with me Barrister Vance Ufeli. Thank you so very much, Barrister, for being here. And I'm more excited that this is your area of forte. Help us make sense of some of these things. Oyedele saying that the president has no hand any longer. The law has been gazetted. It is now law as it stands. It even has taken effect. Nothing can draw it back again. Help us make sense how this works.
Yeah, Oyedele cannot be saying that. He's not a lawyer. I don't know who gave him the authority to make such a public expression. The tax law that he helped to put together is very academic. I mean, he doesn't have any experience. He has not lived in any country where this tax law that they put together had worked. So he should restrain himself to the academic letters of that tax law. We're saying that it is law that will govern taxation. It is what is legal that can be taxed. Okay, that the National Assembly passed a law, okay, the tax law, the four of them handed over the said, according to law, to the president who gave his assent to it, okay? Even though it was an executive bill, the bill actually emanated from the executive, the president. It's sent to the National Assembly for the National Assembly's concurrence. The National Assembly did all the debate and the fine-tuning and the, input and reduce same into what it should be. The president assent to it. Having assented to it, we found out that the gazetted copy that is now available, okay, for enforcement, is different from the one that was passed by the National Assembly. And so the normal thing to do is to suspend the law pending when the ratification of the problems. And it's saying that the president cannot suspend the law. What does it mean by that? As long as what the president have with him is not that, as long as what they intend to implement is not that was passed by the National Assembly, then you will have chaos. There's chaos. So it's not a question of whether the president can suspend it or not. It's a question of the illegality of the copy that is before the public for implementation. And because you have a wrong copy for implementation, a copy that have, that was altered, that you have other section added to it, creating and empowering the FIRS to take certain actions and without court order. All those ones put together is an illegality. So we should be talking about the arrest and prosecution of whoever is involved in that oversight, that lapse. That's what we're talking about. We should not be talking about the implementation. The man is rushing to implement. He just wants to implement. But that's why the senior advocate of Nigeria say he's reckless. And I agree, it's a very reckless statement that he made there. You're asking us to carry on. Who will carry what on the basis of what? The nation we cannot all, swim in illegality. He might be an accountant, that's his speed, but when it comes to law must be followed. The law that was passed by the National Assembly must be the same law that will be executed, must be the same law that will be in circulation for enforcement. So it can, the best bet here is for the president to suspend it. I said that this thing should be suspended ever before now, before even this whole thing came up. It has to be suspended because we are going back to the National Assembly to make the corrections. for the National Assembly to produce the copy that it passed, it is that copy the president must assent to, and it is that copy that must be in circulation. That's exactly what should be done. So this carelessness of saying the president cannot, a lawyer even said that the president cannot suspend the law that he assented to. I agree with him. But the question is, the law that the president assented to is not the one in circulation. They are right. The president cannot suspend the law that he assented to. He cannot. But that one that he assented to is the one that must be in circulation. They cannot assent to a law and they keep it in abeyance and go and bring a copy from somewhere and put it in circulation.
I think we have a loss of communication there from Barrister Vance Ofeli's end. I would love to believe that he would join back, possibly when the communication resumes back. But of course, he was speaking to the fact that Oyedele is an accountant. It's not a lawman. He doesn't understand nothing about law, and equally he believes that what the senior advocates of Nigeria had said, especially some of them, that what he said was reckless. Barrister Vance Ofeli is saying that he believes that is true, because what Oyedele is trying to do is go on to implementing the law, which he said was an illegality. Lots of people have called it constitutional breach. Other people have called it it's treasonable. I'd love to believe that Barrister is back. Are you back, Barrister? All right, so just before we get him to reconnect back, so we were speaking to the issue of the tax law and hope that, something good will be done about it. And whilst we brainstorm on some of these things, I think it's very important to equally say here that Oyedele had disputed some of the claims by the parliamentarians that the law was changed. He said, according to an interview he granted, that nothing was actually changed at this point. So the big question is, whom should we believe? Should we believe Oyedele for saying that nothing was changed, or are parliamentarians representing us that have said that what they had the opportunity of going through is different from what is in the public domain, that hopefully from January 1st, 2026 would be implemented, is different, and therefore Nigerians should not abide with that. There is a general furore of Nigerians in aghast, saying that they are not simpatical with what the Oyedele is speaking to at this point. So we do not know how we can come to the same to hope that this works. But of course, we still have a Barrister Vance Ofeli who would be joining us. Hopefully this would get him to do some more discussions on this and more, because it's very important that we make sense of some of these things. So I'll be right back in a bit. It's still Enterprise Morning, a Christmas edition. Please don't go anywhere.
Of voting. Just go there, give them your name and your address. That's all. And
through the finest writing of the ace journalist and broadcaster that will leave you inspired and informed.
The Citizen Jones selected prologues of Volume 1 now available. Get your copy now.
For details, contact 0706 9637 935 or send an email to enterprisetv@gmail.com. Citizen Jones selected prologues, a classical compendium of compelling arguments.
The highly anticipated book titled The Citizen Jones Selected Prologues is finally here.
This exclusive new book takes you on a journey through the finest writing of the ace journalist and broadcaster that will leave you inspired and informed.
The Citizen Jones Selected Prologues of Volume 1 now. All right, thank you so very much for being back. And just before we went for that little break, we were speaking to the issue of the tax law, and if possible, that would take effect from January 1st, 2026. There is a general furore of that particular tax law, and if Nigerians are really going for it. I still have a Barrister Vance Oferi. Thank you so very much, Barrister, for being back.
Very well.
All right. So you were speaking to something before before that.
Yes,
okay.
I'm saying that the law that the president has sent to must be the one that will be executed. It cannot be something else. So the lawyer who said the president cannot suspend the law that he has sent it to is right. But the question is it the law that was assented to that's in circulation now for enforcement? It's not. So there must, at the end of the day, we must keep at abeyance this current uttered one. Okay? We have to keep it at abeyance.
All right. So I would love to read out something Mr. Oyedele had said here. He was given an opportunity to speak on this particular matter. He said, I'd love to read it out here. Oyedele dismissed claims that Nigeria's new tax laws were altered after passage by the National Assembly, describing the controversy as misinformation designed to create fear and stall implementation of reforms scheduled for the beginning of January. And still on, he said that the allegation that provisions in the Gazetted tax law differ from what lawmakers passed cannot be authoritatively established because the certified harmonized versions transmitted by the National Assembly to the President have not been made public. So the big question is, where then did the parliamentarian get the copy that is being sold all over the place if what they had talked about is not being made public?
Why would you say so? It's Parliament that passed it now. Parliament have a copy of what they passed. Yes, and it's being said that one that they have, which they passed, is different from the one gazetted. It cannot be saying where did they get it from. This is Nigeria. How can you say where they get it from? Document, we've seen where memos leak, even in the presidency. It does not lie in the mouth of Oyedele to be saying that there is misinformation and all that. There's already an allegation. What he's doing now is trying to act as a judge. The matter has to go to court for the court to make the pronouncement to say, no, that these two documents are the same. Or no, there's a material difference between these two documents. There's already a dispute. And when there's a dispute, it's not Oyedele that will resolve the dispute. There's a dispute already. It's only a court of law that can make that expression that is making, that this is just people trying to stall reforms. It's the court that will make that pronouncement, not him. There's a dispute already, and when there's a dispute, you cannot go ahead with that. There's nothing that is tied hard and stone that we must implement this law from January. Why are we rushing to exactly? And for him to say that you cannot set aside the 4 laws, nobody's asking you to set aside the 4 laws. Under the law, there's what they call the blue pencil rule. If a law is bad, if a part of a law is bad, that part can be struck out by a court pronouncement. We're not saying the entire laws are bad. We're not saying that changing the name from FRS to NIRS is wrong or whatsoever. All those aspects, we're not saying. What they're talking about, the aspects in the one in circulation, that in the gazetted one that empowers the NIRS and that makes some material alterations. You understand? We don't need to see it. As long as the allegation is there, let it be resolved by a court of law. That's it. You can't implement when that allegation is still hanging.
Yes, sorry for interjecting the barrister, but what he's saying here is, according to him, and I love to quote him, there was a reference to a provision that I know was not in the final gazette, but was in the draft. When I reached out, that is Oyedele now, when I reached out, I was told the committee had not even met Some people decided to write a report before the committee met, and it circulated everywhere. So what he is eventually saying that what we have is a fake copy, that the original one is still with the president yet, which has not been communicated to Nigerians.
It is the same thing we're saying. There's a dispute. There's a dispute. Do you think between now and 2026, somebody will not go to court to ask that the federal government be restrained from implementing it? There's a dispute. As long as there's a dispute. Now, he's even introducing a third version to it. Say somebody wrote a report. Who is that person that wrote the report and circulated it? Who is that person that wrote a report and circulated it? That's the dispute we're talking about. There's a dispute. There's an allegation. You can't go ahead with the implementation when this allegation has not been resolved. You cannot go. I know it's part of those who put together the document. But it should not rush to go and implement it because tax is a very sensitive issue. They must go back to the drawing board to correct every mistake that we made. That person that wrote the report, why did they write the report? The one in circulation, why is it different from the one that the National Assembly signed? And why is it saying that the one that the president signed have not been communicated to anyone? So all these things are the things we are talking about. He cannot resolve it. He doesn't have the authority under the law to resolve disputes of this magnitude. It's a national issue. It has to be brought before a court of law for resolution.
All right, so I'd love to ask you, this is my final question. With your expansive knowledge and experience doing what you do as a lawyer, can you give us maybe one example in the past where laws were passed and it was made unconstitutional, or it was retracted back and either it didn't pass through or it was amended?
There are a lot of cases. Let's take the Electoral Act, for example. When the Electoral Act, the Electoral Act of not the amended version. I think 2020. No, 2020 is the amended version. It was first passed before 2020. I think 2019 or thereabouts. When it was presented to Buhari at that time, it was presented 4 times. The first one, when the president looked at it and the team went through it, the legal team in the presidency looked at it, they discovered that the alteration made will affect certain time lags. Okay? That if the president go ahead to assent to it, it means that political parties will not have up to 90 days within which to present their nominees, and some other ancillary provisions that will conflict. He vetoed it. He took it back to the National Assembly. The National Assembly worked on it, corrected that, and they brought it again. Another issue. Okay? He vetoed it. It went back to the National Assembly. That's what I did 4 times before we came up with that law, the Electoral Act, the new Electoral Act. Before, and after a few years, it was also amended again. Okay. After a few years, that's when they now amended the part that has to do with if you are not a contestant in an election, you cannot go to court. Before now, anybody could go to court. You understand? So that is the example. The latest wherein a law was passed, was presented, was vetoed 4 times before it went through. Okay? So that's the closest example. This particular one was not vetoed. The president did not veto it because this one is even started as an executive bill, which means it came from the executive itself. Then it got to the National Assembly for their own legislative input. After it was during the legislative input that the Northerners came up with their own arguments. Everybody came up with their own arguments and adjustments and all that. Then when they passed it, the copy that was passed went to the president, and the president assent to it. And now there's a dispute as to what has been gazetted and what the National Assembly passed. Okay? So that dispute must be resolved. And it cannot be resolved by an individual. It has to be resolved by an institution. So that's exactly what I'm talking about.
I am not very sure how the president and his team hopes to make this work. Already they have based the 58.5 trillion Naira budget of 2026. Hopefully most of the money would come from the tax from Nigerians, or taxing Nigerians. Last year, the FIRS made 21 trillion Naira from taxing Nigerians. That's about 14 billion US dollars. That was what was made in 2024. With the new tax law amendments and all, they hope to have more than 40 trillion Naira made or accrued from taxing Nigerians. Now that there is a little bit of fracas here and there, I do not know if they have a plan B at this point. But Barrister, in 30 seconds, do you think that there could be a plan B for the executive at this point with the little chaos that is here?
Go on with tax. Nobody said they should not go on with tax. We have an existing law before this amendment. So they can go on with the previous position, depending when this is ratified. And when it's ratified, they will give a date for commencement. It's that simple. It's that simple. It's just cross-referencing and cross-check. And when they cross-reference, cross-check, they may not even need to go to court. Or they may just go back to the National Assembly and do cross-referencing and cross-check. And, do a press conference for the world to see. And that's all. So you can't just go ahead in the face of disputes. Nobody does that. So nobody's saying they should not tax Nigerians or not make money for the nation. But it has to be done the right way. We cannot have a law passed, another one in circulation. It says a lot about legal sovereignty. Okay? It says a lot about legal sovereignty and the rest of that. So we shouldn't have a porous legal system wherein the federal government will be acting on forged laws. It doesn't show any sign of seriousness. Let's address this issue properly.
All right, let's address this issue properly. And I equally love to believe that the respect for democratic idealism, would go a long way in helping the executive, as led by President Bola Tinubu, to understand the need to allow this process go through the normal areas, filters it should pass through just before Nigerians will see reasons to accept it and equally abide with it. Thank you so very much, Barrister, for your time. We truly do appreciate your greatness there. So, and that's about the time we have. We'd love to say thank you, everyone, for making this a date. Please do well to follow us. You can read up on everything we have talked about when you visit us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally rewatch this, download and share to your friends and your folks, if you may, when you visit us at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Igwebike, wishing you a splendid Christmas and equally urging you, please drink, but do not drink and drive. Stay safe. We have 2026 to meet again and do this. So please, we need you alive. That's our suggestions and that's our prayers for today. Have yourself a splendid Christmas. God bless you. God bless Nigeria. And I'll see you on another episode. Bye-bye.